I'd like to welcome you, everyone who logged in and joined us today's webinar. I am Blaine Busto, the product manager for Certified Ethical Hacking, the course we offer here at Apex Global. Thank you for visiting us and joining us and becoming a part of our community in this part of our promotions. Okay, as we know, as data breach is becoming more rampant and digital in this digital era, personal and other valuable information uploaded online are becoming vulnerable. Threats are becoming more sophisticated. Hackers conduct different attacks from various angles to find loopholes within the system. With the training course that Apex Global is offering, we will provide all necessary tools and techniques that will allow the participants to immerse in hackers' perspective, and they will gain insights on how hacker thinks and defend against their attacks. Today, this webinar would give us an introduction to our hacking methodologies, the way our hacker thinks. It is a preemptive protection, and it is one of the need of the hour. We will learn about the 5 phases of the hacker's strategy, and that is footprinting and reconnaissance, scanning and enumeration, gaining access, maintaining access, and also covering your tracks. I'd like you to get a sneak peek on how your hacker thinks. I'd like to introduce you to our speaker. He is Mr. Michael Manason. He is our EC Council certified instructor. He's been offering classes and other curriculums also with Microsoft. He is a versatile individual with passion for technology, maybe an open or closed source. He is interested in infrastructures, database, and development technologies, as well as management processes. He's been in a company working for multinationals, non-government organization, maybe onshore and offshore, and in the military institutions with tasks involving but not limited to maintaining and managing IT infrastructures. He is using Microsoft and open source technologies in both servers, desktops, and cloud computing. I'd like to introduce you, Michael, to everyone, and you can now begin your demo.
Okay, thank you so much for the introduction, Blaine. That was a good introduction. Welcome everyone to this webinar. So this is the first time I'll be conducting a webinar. Usually I would deliver courses straight to my students, and this is a little bit of a new experience for me. I do hope that everyone can hear me fine, and I do hope you see my screen as well, because I'll be discussing something like the core of ethical hacking by itself, which are the 5 phases that was mentioned by Blaine. So that's footprinting and reconnaissance, scanning and enumeration. We have gaining access, maintaining access, and covering your tracks. Before we proceed with the slides, just clarifications on the term hacking, cracking, ethical hacking, penetration testing, and security audit. Just a brief history of hacking per se. In the early 60s, when the internet was just, or computing was just starting, the term hacking was supposed to mean making things work. So if you hack something, you try to make it work. You try to make the keyboard work with another CPU when it's not compatible with another one. So that was the term hacking. Then came these individuals who were really adept at computing and different phases, different domains of computing, from programming to networking to software development and all. So they started breaking into stuff. So they started cracking into stuff. So that was the correct term a couple of years back. Cracking was supposed to be doing something illegal, breaking into a system, then trying to exfiltrate information, or just try to delete, or just try to be a nuisance to administrators. Eventually, this was popularized by the media, and then hacking came about. Now, the term hacking nowadays refers to a process wherein someone gets into a system. Now, the term system basically means either a software, either software, rather either software, hardware, processes, people. Okay, it comprises the whole system. So you break into a system, and you actually compromise any of the systems. That's why we have social engineering, by the way, because in social engineering you actually target individuals, people within the system, so you could exfiltrate, you could get information from them. So with that in mind, so just a couple of years back, a decade back, so people started getting into security a lot because of, again, what's happening with all of this malware spreading around, all of this news about hackers breaking into systems, and popularized, of course, by Hollywood. People got into it. And then the popularity of offensive security came about. So in offensive security, you now have individuals who are actually good at hacking, but use it for good purposes. Basically became, they were actually called white hackers. So there was now a clear definition between white hackers and those that actually do the bad stuff. So these were the black hats. Okay, so the black hats were the ones who were involved in freakish stuff, from stealing information, trying to break into systems. Well, just trying to get into the system. There are several types of black hat. There are several types of hackers, by the way. I mentioned two. So we have the white hat hackers. These are offensive security professionals who are adept in both offense and defense, and we usually secure the systems by hacking into systems, breaking into systems, checking the whole security posture of the organization. We have your black hats. Your black hats are the ones that actually work in the dark, let's say work in the dark for lack of terms. They're the ones who actually try to break into the system, create those malware. They're the ones that were popularized by Hollywood. We have your gray hats. Gray hats are those that actually work in the morning as white hats, and then come nighttime, they actually perform black hat hacking. You have your hacktivist or your suicide hackers. Usually for hacktivists and suicide hackers, they don't care if they ever get caught. The only thing that they are concerned about is, again, to succeed in in compromising their target. The main difference between the two, though, suicide hackers don't choose their target. Okay, as long as they can break into any system and they get caught, all right, that's fine with them. But for hacktivists, they usually target organizations that would definitely reach the news because, again, they're selling their propaganda. Amongst all of them, the scariest ones, aside from black hat hackers, are the cyber terrorists. A couple of years back, ISIS had a group of hackers that were breaking into different government organizations in the US. You have this um, state-sponsored hackers. These are probably the worst of them all. State-sponsored hackers are sponsored by governments, and the three famous state-sponsored groups includes ones from China, PLA, Russian Bear from Russia, and of course North Korea, Lazarus Group. You might have heard the news about Citrix. So I just read an article about Citrix a couple of weeks back. I was found out that they were compromised since 2008. So the group, it was called APT, but by the way, that attack is called an APT, Advanced Persistent Threat. So they were lurking in the network for close to 10 years since 2008. That makes it 11. And they stole about 6 terabytes of data from Citrix. So this is an attack usually done by state-sponsored hackers. Oh, I forgot to mention Iranian hackers as well. Okay. So with that in mind, what is now ethical hacking? So ethical hacking, like what I mentioned a while ago, are the white hats. Usually these are now offensive security professionals that try to break into systems, their own systems, and then try to fix it before attackers can actually come in. So that's actually ethical hacking at work. So ethical hacking uses the same tools, the same techniques, the same tricks that's being employed by these black hats trying to get into systems. The main difference, though, okay, between the two is the intent. The intent of black hats is to steal, pilferage, exfiltrate information for financial gains, okay, which is usually what's happening right now for organized crime, or again for nation states' uh, what's the right term for that one? For nation states, just for the nation state, okay, for lack of term. Okay, so again, these are the main difference between the two. Now, in ethical hacking, you also look for vulnerabilities. Vulnerabilities in, let's say, in software, hardware, or in system in general. That's what you actually do. So the main focus of ethical hacking then is to look for these vulnerabilities, verify its existence, create proof of concepts, or perform the attack themselves rather, and then afterwards try to give a report on how to fix it. Okay. Now, bear in mind with penetration testing, with security audits, with ethical hacking, these are the legal processes that you can actually do to test your company's security posture. Everything must be within, okay, the scope or with proper permissions by concerned authorities, and usually this is never verbal. Once you actually perform a security test and it's verbal, and then something untoward or something bad happens, you'll be held administratively, legally, or even criminally liable. So everything must be written in black and white. So those are the things that you have to think about. So the core of ethical hacking, of course, the one offered by XPosium, is now on the 10th version, CH version 10, actually focuses on 20 modules. Now, those 20 modules, starting from an introduction to ethical hacking, then afterwards, you now have the 5 phases of ethical hacking, which we'll actually be covering in this webinar. So you have footprinting and reconnaissance, you have scanning and enumeration, you have vulnerability analysis, you have system hacking, malware analysis, you actually have sniffing networks, session hijacking, denial of service attacks, you have 11, session hijacking, IDS evasion for Module 12. Module 13 is hacking web servers. Module 14 is hacking web applications. Module 15 covers wireless networks. Module 16 covers mobile hacking. Module 17 is for cloud IoT hacking. The next module is IoT and cloud hacking, finally cryptography. So those are the topics covered in ethical hacking. But the core of ethical hacking itself is composed of 5 steps. Okay. The first step in the CH hacking methodology, this is a proprietary methodology, by the way, which is developed by XPosium. But of course, this is what's usually done by attackers. The first thing that you usually do is to gather information about your target. So this is where footprinting and reconnaissance comes in. Now, in footprinting and reconnaissance, it's usually composed of 2 types. Passive reconnaissance and then active reconnaissance. For passive reconnaissance, you'll be gathering information from publicly accessible information in either electronic format or non-electronic format. When we say non-electronic format, from published materials. When we say electronic format, it usually is using the internet. Active reconnaissance means you're going to gather information through interaction, either through technological or non-technological ways, or with the use of technology or no technology at all. With the use of technology, you'll be using emails, you'll be using phones, mobile phones, you'll be conducting phishing. Okay, using VoIP for phishing or getting information. For emails, of course, you can actually do phishing or social engineering attacks. And that's the non-technological approach to footprinting and reconnaissance. So in active reconnaissance, you can actually have dumpster diving. So you actually go through someone else's trash, as what I usually say to my class. Someone else's treasure is actually a hacker. Someone else's trash is a hacker's treasure. You might get sensitive information like post-it notes with passwords. You might get, let's say, not sensitive information, but information about the specific target that you could use later on for social engineering. If you're going to go for the technological approach naturally, well, you have to do your research. So that means you have to use different tools and techniques for that one. So if you're going to do it manually, you can actually go to this. There are lots of tools, by the way, that you could use. In ethical hacking, there are lots of tools that you can actually use. And usually I just show or just demo some tools to my students, but there are lots of them that you can actually do and practice at your own pace, at your own homes. And this is the OSINT framework, or OSINT stands for Open Source Intelligence. So again, these are all publicly available information, and it's now neatly arranged in one tool that you can actually use. Let's like going to a domain, then trying to get information about a specific domain that you're targeting. Let's say we can actually go to, which one can we actually go in domain tools for? Is we can actually go to this site. Okay. So let's say in ethical hacking, by the way, there's a specific website that usually the students should be attacking. You are not allowed to attack other websites while inside the class. So the website that you can actually attack, this one is for the CH course, it's certifiedhacker.com. And all of my demos are usually targeting certifiedhacker.com. Again, in the early days of ethical hacking, version 6, version 7, prior to the introduction of this electronic materials, students were actually, before the actual start of the class, students must sign a non-disclosure agreement stating that all tools and everything that they learned will actually be used for legal purposes and will not do anything untoward, like attacking networks while inside the class at all. Anyway, going back, so we can actually get information about certifiedhacker.com. Okay, as you can see, there you go. You can actually get information about certifiedhacker.com. You can go back to OSINT framework. You could actually do lots of things. So you're getting email addresses and all, social networking. Again, there are lots of things you can actually do. Okay. But usually what I do is I usually use a tool. I usually use tools. One of those tools is Discover. This is from Lee Baird. It was called Backtrack Scripts a couple of years back. So this tool will try to actually collate all of those information that we usually discover manually. Okay, so this is a script that actually works with several other tools. And actually automates everything for you, then gives you a report afterwards. So let's try to see how it works. Let's try to do a reconnaissance against a specific domain. So we're gonna choose one, and we're going to just do passive scanning for now. So it's certified hacker, that the website that we're going to target. The domain is certifiedhacker.com, certifiedhacker.com. Okay, it will now start with the process of gathering information from publicly accessible sources. Now, what we're doing right now is actually just gathering information. There's nothing illegal that's happening here. As a matter of fact, although I am not saying that you should do it, you could do, oh, what in the world just happened? My DNS recon just failed me. Yeah, tools are tools. Sometimes this fails, like in this instance. Anyway, so what's happening here is trying to gather as much information as it could from publicly accessible resources. So that means there's nothing illegal that's happening. These are all accessible from the internet. So if you actually run this tool against your own domains, you're not doing anything illegal because you're just trying to discover what is accessible from the internet. Okay, let's just see if this would take a little while. Okay, I only have like an hour or so. So, okay, it's running Harvester, gathering information from different search engines. Let me just explain what's happening here. So ANIN is an internet registry. So it gathers information from this internet registries where you actually register your domains. GoFile, it actually tries to discover any file that is accessible, then tries to get metadata or information from those files that you can use later on for social engineering. GoHost, yeah, another tool that's actually used to get information about IP addresses used by the domain, as well as email addresses that can actually be extracted from the domain. A Harvester usually gets information from search engines, which is what it's doing right now. Okay. There we go. Census, and Shodan. These are one of the more popular websites where you can actually get information about your target networks. Okay, CertSH for certificates. Okay. Usually, this is what usually happens in security. It's more of a waiting game, really. You must be very, very patient because sometimes when you run scripts, most of these are actually scripts. So that means you can actually look up the actual scripts, which are Python scripts, and you could modify them as well if you want. Analyze how they work, so you could actually learn more. Sometimes it would take hours, sometimes it would take days. There's another tool that I usually use, Spiderfoot. It's also for reconnaissance. It usually takes days for it to finish, but the details actually very nice. So you get tons of information about your target just by running Spiderfoot. You could look it up, Spiderfoot. I don't want to run it right now because it would take forever to run. Okay, get information from Google about certifiedhacker.com. The importance of Google certificates. These Google certificates would identify those digital certificates that were issued to subdomains. So you could actually identify those subdomains, even domains that are not publicly accessible, but there's a certificate that was registered for those sites. Okay, these are all for data gathering. Remember, we're not doing anything illegal right now. We're just gathering information. Okay. I have to remind you as well about LinkedIn. If you actually look up LinkedIn, if you usually look for jobs in LinkedIn, you notice that they have certain criteria. Must be good in MS Exchange, familiar with Cisco IPS and Checkpoint Firewall. That's still part of social engineering, still part of footprinting, not social engineering, still part of footprinting and reconnaissance. You're actually getting information about the technology that the companies or the target company is actually using. Once you actually get information about the technology and all those pertinent information that we are now doing, your attack surface will now be smaller. Now, when we say attack surface getting smaller, you will now have fewer IP addresses to check, fewer websites, subdomains to actually check for vulnerabilities instead of scouring the whole internet looking or gathering information about your target. Okay. Okay, I'll just get back to this later on when it's done. So Metasploit is one of the main tools that we actually use to exploit servers. Your servers or devices, or actually anything, and even phones can actually be exploited using Metasploit. So anyway, moving on. So the next step is usually scanning. So after gathering information about your target, you try to, again, look for live hosts, ports that are open, and services associated with those ports. While enumeration is actually gathering more information aside from the services that are associated. What are the other services that the actual target system or target network is actually using? From SMTP, okay, what are the SMTP servers, NTP, network time protocol, machines trying to synchronize when it comes to the time. You can actually see a list of all those servers that are actually synchronizing with NTP servers. SNMP, you can actually identify those devices in the network. Those are the things you can actually do for enumeration. And the de facto tool is actually being used for, okay, it's almost done, for scanning enumeration is Nmap, okay? So Nmap, this is an open source tool. This is usually in every, okay, hackers toolbox, penetration testers toolbox, and can actually be used to scan, okay, certain networks, or in our case, we'll actually be scanning our target server, which is Windows Server 2000. This is our target server. Before we proceed with Nmap, we're almost done, by the way, here. So let me just, okay. Wait for this to be done. There are 200 total hosts. This is a summary of everything that it has found so far. There you go. Okay, it's now trying to create a report for us. Okay. There are some parts of Discover that you must configure, like having subscription keys. Some are actually paid, some are free. Okay. Okay. All right. There's the IP address. Okay, all the IP addresses that it has found so far pointing to one. Okay, so all information is actually stored on this location. Once I hit enter, a browser will actually open and all the reports will actually be shown here, okay, based on what it has gathered. Okay, there'll be lots of them. Hope my machine doesn't freeze. A while ago, my machine just froze when I was running some tests. Okay. Yeah, so lots of sites that are open, and this is the final report that it actually gives you. So it's pretty cool because you can actually get tons of information about your target. So just one email was actually found. What were the names that were gathered? Okay, so these are the names that were gathered from the website, from certifiedhacker.com. DNS information. Okay, so you'll also be taught on DNS, but as much as possible, you should have a good background with networking because we won't be delving too much on how DNS works. Okay, so maps, there are maps. Okay, this is the map of, let's say, the actual organization and what it actually acquired. Okay, this is from DNS dumpster, again, from different sources. Okay, so domains. Okay, this is the domains of the IP address. Let's look at Netcraft. Okay, no, with Netcraft, no, didn't give anything for Netcraft, but it's actually a very nice tool in getting information about your target servers, where's the main. So anyway, so you managed to get all those information about your target and realize that there's one specific IP that's actually exposed, and that's, let's say, a Windows Server machine. So you delve deeper and you managed to find out that the IP address, you actually managed to get the IP address. So it was 190.168.63.126, which we will actually be testing. Now, where was that one that I was using? Okay. Not you. Okay, let's try to do a scan for, let's say, the server. Let's say Nmap. Again, this is the main tool that's usually used for scanning networks. I'm going to do a stealth scan. I want to be verbose. I want to identify the operating system. Okay, and I want to, this time I want to perform enumeration. I want to run banner grabbing, which is gathering, trying to extract information from applications when you connect to it. Usually they would give information or banners. And I would identify my target, 190.168.63.126. Okay, let's run the thing. Okay, just by looking at it, you can, okay, initial run, you could actually see that these are the ports that are actually open. Okay, that's good. That's good news. We found ports that are open, and that's bad news for them because there's so many ports that are open. It should not be. It shouldn't be this. This. It shouldn't be so. Again, never expose as much as possible. Limit your exposure to attacks. So it will try to scan for the 23 services associated with those ports. By the way, I forgot to add one more parameter, -t, capital T, and usually -t4 and -t5 is usually for paranoid. So you want to be as quiet as possible. So the dash T would indicate how frequent the scan would be. Okay. So doing a scan shouldn't take long. But anyway, once that's done, usually this is the final output. Okay, so I did it a while ago, so we won't spend too much time with it. I should have done it with Discover, by the way. Sorry for that. These are all the information that was gathered. So we have FTP that's open. That's bad. You're using OpenSSH, so we can do vulnerability research for OpenSSH 7.1. We can actually see MSRPC. And again, these are the banners. Okay, because of the banner script, you can actually get information about the servers or the services itself. Okay, banner for MySQL, it's encoded. So we have this port mapper. Okay, we have Apache Coyote 1.1. Again, you could do vulnerability research on these versions, and then you could use it later on. Okay, and you can see that it's probably running any of this operating system, but it's actually this one, Windows 2008 R2. Remember, usually servers and desktops, they have the same footprint. That's why Nmap says, oh, it can either be any of these ones. All right, there we go. So that's good. So you have performed footprinting, you have gathered enough information about your target. So the next step is actually vulnerability analysis. In vulnerability analysis, usually this should not be done outside. If you're targeting the organization outside, it's very noisy. Usually vulnerability analysis is done inside the organization. If you want to do vulnerability analysis, you could do so using Nmap, because this can be a little bit quiet. There are lots of scripts that you can actually use with Nmap. Share Nmap, and then scripts. Okay. These are some examples of scripts that you can actually use for vulnerability analysis. These ones, specific vulnerabilities though. Okay, but let's look at one tool that I actually use for vulnerability analysis. We have OpenVAS. OpenVAS is a fork of Nessus a couple of years back. Nessus was free, but since it was bought by Tenable Security, it has a community version and it has a pro version or a paid version. So usually would scan the network to perform tasks and everything, but this would take forever. But this was a scan that I did a couple of days back for my class here. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention, I am actually not in the Philippines right now. I'm actually here in Korea. I usually deliver courses for the US military. So this was done in one of my classes. Okay, let's try to check. So as you can see, there are lots of vulnerabilities here, okay? We could actually try to attack any of these vulnerabilities, but there's one that I really wanted to show you guys, one vulnerability for almost all Windows servers, all Windows machines. Was created by NSA, National Security Agency. That's the one I'm going to show you later on. Usually for these ones, I have demos for it inside my class, but usually it takes a long time. Alright, so we're done with vulnerability scanning. The next step is to perform system hacking. So in system hacking, you try to crack passwords. Okay, you brute force passwords, and then if you are able to brute force passwords, you now have what we call escalation of privileges. Escalation of privileges means you're going to, let's say there are two types of privilege escalations, horizontal and vertical. You're just going to give permissions to a regular account and make it a root account. Okay, for horizontal privilege escalation, you have a standard account and you're going to use it or going to give it root or admin permissions through impersonation. Okay, here's something like run as. In vertical privilege escalation, you're going to use the account, then use it to look for other accounts that you can actually crack later on. Yeah. The next step is now to execute applications. So you try to basically own the system. You can now do anything you want with the system, even open backdoors. and then you hide the files. You cover it, you actually maintain access, and then finally you cover your tracks. So the reason why you want to cover your tracks is as much as possible. You want to have continuous access to the machine that you have compromised. So let's look at how to perform an attack. So this is done. I could close this one. Okay, I can close it. Okay, so this is also done. Okay, so okay, there goes. I have I have Metasploit running. Okay, up and running. So, has anyone heard of Eternal Blue? Eternal Blue is a an SMB, server message block vulnerability, that was released by shadow brokers when they managed to get hold of the tools, okay, from NSA. Usually it's paired with double pulsar for the backdoor. Ew. Traffic lights. All right. Maybe because I'm doing a scan, that's why. Okay. There you go. So this is from NSA, and it's a spy tool, and it's pretty powerful. You can break into any system that came from NSA anyway. So there's a port in Metasploit that was created by this company. I forget the company. RiskSense, I think, was the company that actually developed RiskSense. Okay, Eternal Blue. Yep, they were the ones who actually ported the exploit to Metasploit. And they also have another version. The initial Eternal Blue was targeting Windows 7. Now they have one that targets Windows 10 and above. So how does Eternal Blue work? So this is our server. It's up and running. Okay. And let's now try to search for Eternal Blue. Okay, I got 5, but I'm after the third one because I'm targeting Windows Server 2008. If I was targeting higher versions, I would go for Win8, the port. So I'm going to use the exploit. So use exploit, Windows, SMB, and then MS 17010, then Eternal Blue. Okay, now what are the options? Let's look at the options for Eternal Blue. It needs the following. Anything that says yes, it needs that. So we're just gonna, everything is okay except for our host, which is empty. So we're gonna set the our host, and our target's 192.168.63.126. All right. If you run info, it actually needs payloads as well, okay, because there's about 2,000 kilobytes for the payload. So we search for payloads, and then these are the payloads that we actually have. What we're after is, here. This is what we're after. Payload. It's not here. Anyway, set payload windows. Fine, it's not a payload. It's not there, but you can actually just run Windows, and there you go. There's tab complete in Metasploit, so it automatically completes the command based on the context. That means there's a payload for Eternal Blue, so this is the payload that you can actually use. Now, when we run show options, we can now see that there are new requirements for the payload. So we have lhost, which is your local host. So I will type in my local host. It's this machine that I'm actually using. So if I actually get the IP address, I have config. It's actually 192.168.63.123. So it's set lhost 192.168.63.123. Okay, are we all set? Yes, we're all set. Let's try to cross our fingers and hopefully it works. Because you never know. Even though it works with other machines, sometimes it doesn't. And that's the time you look for other exploits that you could actually use. So far, so good. Once you have a interpreter, ladies and gentlemen, you basically own the system. Okay, so I will try to run sysinfo. I can see that I am connected to the machine. I actually want to check which folder I'm in Windows System 32. So let's say I want to go to CDC. Okay, and okay, so it didn't work. Okay, so that didn't work. So CDC, sorry, CDC. Just this one should work. PWD. C. Okay. CDC program files. Let's say program files. Okay, let's see if we can go to program files. Okay, where are we? So we can actually run ls. Okay, we're actually on the website. I'm just gonna create a proof of compromise (POC). So edit POC text. Okay, I was here. Okay, internal blue proof of compromise. Okay, usually you would give a time. It's 7:10. My timer is 7:10, so 7:10 is 16, 18, 19, 19, 12. Okay, and the date is 28th of March 2019. Okay, I'm gonna save this thing. So again, we are supposed to be located in C program files. Let's go to to Windows Explorer. Oh no. Oh no, it crashed. Oh, good, it didn't crash. Ha. Sometimes when I actually use Eternal Blue, it actually crashes Eternal Blue. So we actually look up POC. There you go. So we have compromised the system. If you actually run shell, you should actually be there. So directory. Okay, then you could actually do anything that you want already. So that's it. You basically compromise the system. So the next step usually takes a little bit of time, like maintaining access, creating a backdoor, and then covering your tracks. Usually takes longer than an hour for that. So we don't have that time anymore. But at least I wanted to show you what you're going to expect with the course. You'll actually be taught how to break into systems like what I've done here. You'll also be taught how to upload the malware and perform social engineering attacks and lots of stuff that you can actually learn. That concludes my webinar. Okay. Blaine? No.
Yes, hi, I am still here. Do you
Okay.
guys have any questions for Michael that you wanted to get clarified? Just send me a message.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I think that ends our webinar today, as no one raised any questions.
All right. Okay.
Okay. I'd like to thank you for today, Michael, and for
Mhm.
all the participants or attendees that we have today. The file or the video for this webinar will be sent to you. Any questions regarding this webinar, you can still raise it after um, a few days, and then we'll go from there. We will contact you if you guys are interested in attending the Certified Ethical Hacking course that we're going to do on April 22nd to 26th. Have a great day, everyone. Good evening and goodbye. Thank
Okay.
you.
Bye.
Thank you, Michael.